It's a fact that when you look at something red, you can't help but notice it. Just seeing red increases adrenaline, and it's something we remember. After black and white, red is the first color we see, and with the longest wavelength of the visual spectrum, it naturally demands attention to be seen. Throughout history, red has carried various meanings. Studies have found that wearing red can make people appear more confident and attractive, a phenomenon known as the red dress or red shirt effect. It works on both men and women. That could be the reason we have the rule, at least the American rule, to not wear red to a wedding. And yet, a red rose is a symbol of love. On the other hand, there's the term seeing red, a description of true rage. And at the same time, it's the color of bravery and honor. No matter the exact meaning, popular culture regularly uses red as a shorthand for the character you're supposed to notice. So how did one color become a symbol for so many contradictory ideas? We're going to look into the history and evolution of the color red in fashion and pop culture. So now, let's get started. Humans have always been obsessed with red. It started off as a fashion statement in ancient Egypt. Women used red ochre as blush and lipstick, and red henna to paint their nails and dye their hair. In China, red was a popular color for royal women, symbolizing good fortune and happiness. In the Indian subcontinent, red is the traditional color for brides, referencing commitment, matching the color of blood. The Hindu goddess Lakshmi is almost always depicted in red, indicating her constant energy. In ancient Rome, the god of war, Mars, was commonly portrayed wearing red, referencing warfare and the fiery nature of combat. But where would a romantic red show up in the West? Saint Valentine was a 3rd century Christian clergyman living in the Roman Empire. According to legend, Roman Emperor Claudius II outlawed marriages, believing unmarried men made better soldiers. Valentine secretly performed marriages until he was arrested and eventually executed for spreading love. He was often depicted wearing red robes, the color of Christian martyrdom, and red would be the color of Valentine's Day ever since. Spanish colonization in the 1500s brought cochineal, or Mexico's red, to Europe. What was formerly a muted shade became an illuminating hue. Red wasn't just an eye-catcher, but became a symbol of bravery in the Renaissance. Scarlet in particular carried significance in the Catholic Church, representing the blood of Christ. Famously, on 1587, on the day of her execution, on conspiracy of executing her cousin, Queen Mary of Scotland had her outer garments removed to reveal a bright scarlet gown as a way to demonstrate her innocence. By the Romantic era of the 1820s and 1830s, and especially in the Victorian period, red became a popular choice for evening wear. This was when everything was candlelit, so red just looked spectacular. Red roses became especially prominent at this time. It traced back to the story of Aphrodite. When her mortal lover, Adonis, was fatally wounded, she ran through a bed of white roses, her blood turning the roses red. The Victorians used florography to share feelings without saying them out loud. Openly expressing romantic feelings was considered improper, so a red rose was a present of love. Red made quite a few appearances in 19th century literature and folk tales. In 1850, Nathaniel Hawthorne published The Scarlet Letter, set in 17th century Puritan Massachusetts. A woman is condemned for adultery and is forced to wear a scarlet letter A, standing for adultery, embroidered on her dress, directly over her heart, all to publicly shame her. The scarlet shade symbolizing her lawless passion. The red cloak in Little Red Riding Hood has offered countless interpretations from literary scholars. Some say it represented oncoming maturity, while anthropologist Edward Burnett Tyler saw Little Red Riding Hood's red cloak as reminiscent of the bright sun, juxtaposed by the wolf's darkness of night. In the 1870s, cartoonist Thomas Nast popularized the image of Santa Claus in a red coat to create an eye-catching, happy holiday image that would stand out in black and white newspapers. In 1931, the red-suited Santa reached millions with the iconic Coca-Cola print ad. Red would have other iconic appearances in this decade. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's slippers were changed from silver to a sparkling ruby to look more vivid in this colorful world. In Gone with the Wind, Scarlet wore a lot of red. A happy romantic red belle at the start, an angry, wounded pride red when she gets rejected by Ashley, dangerous woman vibes when she gets engaged to a man her sister wanted to marry, and a lustful, immodest, non-matronly dress when her husband is angry at her, for still having feelings for Ashley, the color and style resembling what the local ladies of the night would wear. Initially a jade green in the novel, scarlet sparkles in crimson at Ashley's party, standing strong against gossip, refusing to let society shame her, and an almost cinematic echo of the Scarlet Letter. While in Hollywood, red was far from being associated with modesty, but it stands out against any color palette. It has a natural pop and allure. 1950s costume designers regularly used red for bombshell characters. The color matches their confidence, giving scenes an immediate tone of energy and excitement. One of the defining fashion films of the 1950s was Funny Face. Audrey Hepburn portrays a reserved bookstore worker who unexpectedly becomes a rising fashion model. As her confidence grows, so does her wardrobe. Everything in this movie is pure 1950s fashion indulgence. And in Paris, we see a sequence of her many photo shoots. One of the most memorable images shows Hepburn walking down the steps of the Louvre in a column-shaped red dress with a matching shawl and white gloves. Her pose matches the winged victory of Samothrace's statue behind her, like she is a work of art herself. The flowing style and color gives a romantic effect, even though they don't really match as a couple, no shade. This look was influential, where decades later, in The Princess Diaries 2, Mia appears in a crimson ball gown and white gloves. Speaking of Paris, Yves Saint Laurent was one of the most popular and influential designers, and would create outfits for several films. One of which is 1971's Max and the Junkman, which shows a look I find to be super underrated. Romy Schneider portrays what is basically the movie's fan service girl, but everything she wears is delivering. It's best described as early 70s color pop simplicity. Her chokers are possibly a callback to Manet's Olympia, where they are in the same profession. I'm guessing this dress is made out of satin, which adds luxury sheen while emphasizing her head-turning appeal, a shimmering burning red. In the 80s, red was everywhere. It became the decade's power color, popularized by First Lady Nancy Reagan, who wore it to boost morale in the Oval Office. I always liked red. It's a picker-upper. She wore the color so frequently that her signature fire engine shade became known as Reagan Red. Red was a full-blown pop culture craze. There was a song Lady in Red. The movie Woman in Red. Its eye-catchy nature visually matched the cultural tone of maximalism. The color purple took back to the 1920s. One of the film's most unforgettable images is Shug Avery performing Miss Seeley's Blues in a dazzling sequined red gown. With her dropped waist dress and pearls, she was the lone flapper in town, bringing the glamour of the jazz age to the rural Deep South. It's a jolt of freedom compared to what Seeley is used to. Shug sports a sensual red while singing a risque blues number, but later her dress means something more intimate. Seeley tries it on, stepping into the confidence and self-worth that Shug embodies. The image became iconic enough that Brandy paid homage to it decades later in her music video for Begging and Pleading. Going back to contemporary 80s, Heather Chandler pioneered the queen bee character type, and its costume design tells you who's in charge. In her royalty clique, only she can wear red. She sports red blazers, matching the executive way she runs school, and a red scrunchie like a crown. But it also displays her dark side, specifically anger. She rules through intimidation and bullying others. Perhaps this behavior comes from something deeper, other than wanting to be the most popular. When she attends a college party, she wears a mature-looking scarlet dress, looking more like she's attending a White House get-together. Her style was inspired by Nancy Reagan, after all. It's possible that she's trying to make up for her young age by appearing more distinguished than most of the attendees. But appearances can only tell so much. After her downfall, her reign would be replaced by Heather Duke, who would also adopt red. The queen may have fallen, but the crown has found a new wearer. Heather's is a dark movie, and so is Beetlejuice. This was when the world was introduced to the darkly bright Tim Burton aesthetic. Juxtaposed from her yuppie parents, Lydia Dietz is a traditional goth, mixing 80s alternative looks with Victorian morning wear. She lives in a very politely haunted house, so maybe moving here isn't so bad. In order to save the Maitlands from a painful exorcism, she reluctantly agrees to marry Beetlejuice. And you just know this isn't going to be the typical old-fashioned wedding dress. It's Victorian-inspired. I guess it came back from the dead, and is bright crimson. There is a wedding superstition. Married in white, you will have chosen all right. But married in red, you'll wish yourself dead. But the wedding is cut off before anything is official. I guess it's just not meant to be when your special day is in a hellish red. She wears the same dress again when the same scenario happened in the useless sequel. I might be a bit superstitious myself, but if you choose this as your couple's Halloween costume, I don't know. Who Framed Roger Rabbit shows a healthier marriage. This movie helped reignite nostalgia for the 1940s, a time that was sophisticated but edgy, smoky, and slinky. Set in 1947 Los Angeles, humans and cartoons live amongst each other. That sounds fun, but realistically, that'd be horribly unpractical. In Gary Case Wolfe's original novel, Jessica Rabbit was portrayed as a gold digger stereotype. The film reinvented her, writing her as a loyal wife with elegance, mystery, and the confidence of a 1940s femme fatale. Her introductory scene is an homage to the Tex Avery short Red Hot Riding Hood. But this isn't a comedy, it's a character setup. Her shimmering red gown instantly evokes star power. A big inspiration for her design was pinup model Vicky Dugan, known as the Back, because she had a signature look of dresses with very low backs. But I would guess there was also some notes from Rita Hayworth in Gilda, and the showgirl dresses in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Everything about Jessica is red hot, but she's not just animated eye candy. She has the funny gene as well. Being kind just wins in the end. She's not bad, she's just drawn that way. Speaking of cabaret scenes, another hallmark of the 1940s nostalgia craze was The Fabulous Baker Boys. Although set in present-day 1989, the film is a love letter to the golden age of lounges and smoky piano bars. A lounge duo, waning in their career, looks for female talent to revive their stardom. They find a rough-around-the-edges woman who has the voice of an angel. Her name is Susie Diamond, perfect for a lounge singer. As she joins the act, she gets a more stage-ready image, which leads up to the movie's signature scene. At a New Year's party, she sings Making Whoopee on top of a piano in sultry red. The entire sequence was performed in a single take, and Michelle Pfeiffer performs in an effortless, almost cat-like grace. Every eye in the room is fixed on her. Even the waiters are shooken. But the red doesn't just reflect glamour. Playing on the piano is Jack Baker, the brother she'll eventually fall in love with. The scene was huge in pop culture. And just watch, Sabrina Carpenter will do a reference. I called it first. Red is powerful, but was a part of a modern fairy tale in Pretty Woman. Throughout the film, Vivian Ward's style becomes progressively more sophisticated. And then there's one of the most iconic dresses in cinema history. The production studio instructed costume designer Marilyn Vance to make a black dress, in the same vein as Portrait of Madame X. But she stood strong, designing 3 dresses with various shades, and tested them on camera. It was proven that red would make the look magical. The finished design is an elegant, off-the-shoulder evening dress with a sweetheart neckline. It looks princessy, intended to look as different as possible from how she looks in the beginning. But this outfit isn't complete without a ruby and diamond necklace. The bit where the necklace gets snapped on her fingers was improvised, intended for the gag reel. Director Gary Marshall loved the spontaneous moment, and Julia Roberts' genuine laugh, so he kept it in, describing it as the film's trademark. The thematic focus is longing for a fantasy. She attends an opera for the first time, the red gown being her Cinderella moment. Harper's Bazaar even noted that the dress echoes the spirit of Valentino. The romantic color, luxurious silhouette, and sparkling jewels combine to create a look that's impossible to forget. Red kept showing up in media. It can be worn by the rage-inducing other woman, or the Queen of Christmas, be on the dress of a totally important designer, the centerpiece of a dramatic makeover reveal, or a striking woman walking down the street, but is only a distraction. And speaking of distractions, The Mask was a 90s meets 1940s cartoon universe. The Looney Tunes and Tex Avery nods are all over. When introducing Cameron Diaz's character, who happens to escape from the rain, she wore a form-fitting dress in a deep red color. The red gives off a lusty appeal, embodying the spirit of Hello, Nurse. And it had to, since her arrival at the bank was all a ruse. Here's me being extra. This look might have been a quiet nod to Jane Mansfield in The Girl Can't Help It. They're both singers, they both have mobster boyfriends, they both live in a cartoony world. Her general style had some of the most direct references to the 1940s, further evoking the retro aesthetic. As far as 2000s music videos go, Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears kicked off the new millennium in unforgettable fashion. Baby One More Time was a crazy blockbuster success, but Oops had to be a strong sequel. something that will reinvent her image. I'm not certain if this was set up for the cameras for the Making the Video special, but the day before the video shoot, Britney requested a red catsuit, completed in only 13 hours. But that's quite standard in music video production. Set on Mars, the video is every sense of Y2K futurism, with the Mars setting of dusty reds. Everything is shiny, metallic, maximalist. Even a Titanic reference made you remember this was the year 2000. Esty Stanley, the video stylist, said, "We really wanted to feel space age, and not too out-of-control spot, which I think added with the flared leg and the mock turtleneck. The impact being as bold as the title. While in her debut era, she was the everyday girl next door. By Oops, she was a glamorous, vixen-like pop diva, queen of the universe.
Hi, I'm pop diva Britney.
It set up what a 2000s pop star looks like, and hilariously, the joke video, Oops, I Did It Again Without Music, had many people believing it was real. The Devil in Bedazzled had a similar turn-of-the-millennium glam aesthetic, but more hellish. Following the traditional portrayal of the devil, she's incredibly charming, magnetic even, and greatly undermines the deal. Why do you even need your soul? It's not that big of a deal. She grants several wishes, but uses every word as a weapon, using loopholes to ruin everything. And she's always along the way to help. Elizabeth Hurley recommended costume designer Dina Appel, who previously worked with her on Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. The same campy vibes apply here, with the devil style being early 2000s kitschy. Whether it be a red suit, fur coats, and being not very subtle, it comes to show that she sees this contractual agreement as her personal playground, and she's having a blast at every moment. Her reds showcase a variety of symbols: irresistibility, grandioseness, anger, danger. She's no angel. She's incredibly honest with who she is, but is charismatic enough to make you forget that. Sometimes glamour can be dangerous. Red was used as a symbol of courage in The Hunger Games. The division of class in these films are represented through clothing and color. Katniss Everdeen comes from the most impoverished district, her world being incredibly gray. The capital couldn't be more different. Its citizens dress in extravagant, brightly colored fashions inspired by Rococo excess, emphasizing their wealth, frivolity, and detachment from the suffering they treat as entertainment. In the novel, Katniss's interview dress was covered in jewels, but the designer, Judiana Madovsky, felt a replication of this would look too garish, or too Dancing with the Stars-esque, as she puts it. Drawing inspiration from the gowns in the musical Gypsy, she designed an elegant red dress that would be impactful without overwhelming her character. While many of the other tributes look as if they're heading to prom, Katniss appears ready for the red carpet. From the show's perspective, it gives her an underdog storyline. She had a lot to overcome, and here's Katniss looking refinedly couture. Then comes the unforgettable reveal. As she spins, the dress goes into flames. She is the girl on fire. Within the story, Cena designs this dress to showcase Katniss's brave spirit, as well as symbolizing the bloodshed lost to entertain the elite class. It's a quiet resilience against the tyrannical President Snow, and Katniss refusing to let the capital define her. There would be other instances in recent cinema that showcased Red as elegant and high-fashion contexts. In Ocean's 8, Nineball was introduced as a hacker with a laid-back style, but when the crew infiltrates the Met Gala for the film's central heist, everyone receives a dramatic fashion upgrade. But I'd say Nineball made the biggest impression in a vibrant red, mermaid-cut dress. What makes the scene substantial is the makeover aspect, embodying the "she cleans up nicely" trope. But this dress caused a bit of division, feeling that Rihanna was done dirty, or that Zac Posen wasn't the right designer for her, especially during the 2010s. Whenever she stepped on the red carpet, it would become a viral moment. Personally, I think the simplicity works here. Nineball isn't supposed to outshine everyone in the room. She's supposed to look like she belongs there. The clean silhouette and bright red is what makes the statement. But we all see things differently. What do you think? Another red dress gala moment was in Cruella, but it had more of a revenge motif. This film is a take on Cruella de Vil's origin story, set in London during the 1970s punk craze. When working as a designer for the House of the Baroness, she cuts one of Cruella's designs, hurting her in the process. She barely acknowledges the injury, only requesting a red like her blood. She later takes notice of a beautiful window display, a bright red amongst gray streets, placing a visual motif that will define her rebellion. The idea reaches a peak in what's supposed to be a heist. She causes a distraction by crashing the Baroness's black and white party, dressed in her 1965 collection. Something she might have forgotten about has turned back to her again. Costume designer Jenny Beavan stated that red would be the most anarchic color, for in this scene, Cruella is the only one wearing it. She's dangerous and a little angry, but she also takes a strive of bravery. She decides to take the world of fashion in her own hands. For the rest of the film, Cruella's eclectic outfits took inspiration from designers like John Galliano, Vivienne Westwood, and Alexander McQueen, all of which are known to have a more alternative aesthetic compared to most high-fashion brands. Her trademark colors were black and white, with red adding a splash of brightness. It's the only statement she needs to make. There are so many artistic and media instances of red. It's an incredibly reliable color, remaining one of pop culture's most powerful visual shortcuts. So if you're in a confident mood, it wouldn't hurt to add a little bit of red to your outfit. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!